They say the scariest jobs aren't always the ones in dark alleys or dangerous streets. Sometimes, they're as simple as delivering a pizza. These stories aren't about late orders or rude customers. They're about terrifying encounters that could have ended very differently, and still haunt the people who lived through them. Tonight, we'll dive into 3 real-life pizza delivery horror stories, where every knock on the door, every shadow in the woods, and every unexpected passenger could mean the difference between life and death. I'll never forget this one night when I was working a late shift at the pizza shop. We were just about to close, and I was already dreaming about heading home, when the phone rang. I picked it up. Silence. A little weird, but prank calls weren't uncommon, so I hung up. Not even a minute later, the phone rang again. I answered, and again, there was silence. I was about to hang up when suddenly, I heard the faintest, coldest voice of an old woman. She said she wanted a regular pizza delivered. Her voice made my skin crawl, but I stayed polite and took the order. Inside though, I just wanted my shift to end. When I told my boss, he said I had to take it. Annoyed at first, I reminded myself that old customers usually tipped well, so maybe it wasn't too bad. I put the address in my GPS. It was 7 miles away, on a quiet, empty block. When I got there, I immediately noticed something strange. The house was dark. Not a single light on. I rang the doorbell. No answer. I rang again. Still nothing. Just as I was about to give up, I turned my head, and froze. Through the window, an old woman was staring at me. She didn't blink, didn't move, just stood there with this blank, lifeless expression. My heart started racing. I yelled that I had her pizza, but she didn't react. I shouted louder, and that's when it happened. Her face slowly twisted into a smile. Not a warm smile, not even a fake polite one. It was the kind of smile that makes your stomach drop, the kind that doesn't belong on a human face. My hands shook as I backed away. I placed the pizza on my car seat, ready to leave. I texted my boss to explain, started my engine, and out of pure fear, turned to take one last look. That's when I saw her. Not in the window anymore. Not inside the house. She was standing right outside my passenger side window. Her face just inches from the glass, smiling at me the same way she did before. I floored it out of there, my chest pounding like it was going to explode. When I told my boss, he never made me do another late-night delivery again. And honestly, I'm glad, because I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't driven away when I did. This happened back when I was still in high school. I was doing one of my final shifts at the pizza shop, and my boss handed me what would be my last delivery of the night. I wasn't too excited, because where I lived, deliveries usually meant long drives through the countryside. Sure enough, my GPS took me miles out, down narrow dirt roads surrounded by nothing but thick forest. The sun had nearly set, and the woods looked darker with every mile I drove. Finally, the GPS announced that I had arrived. The place looked like something out of a horror movie, an old wooden cottage sitting by itself in the middle of nowhere. The lawn was overgrown, the grass nearly knee-high, and the whole place gave off a dead, lifeless feeling. Still, I had a job to do. I walked up to the front door and knocked. After a few seconds, I heard heavy footsteps approach from inside. But whoever was on the other side didn't open the door. I noticed the faint outline of a peephole. Someone was watching me. "It's the pizza guy," I called out. There was a pause, then a low, rough voice answered. "Bring it around back." Something about the way he said it made me uneasy. I hesitated. "Are you sure, sir?" I asked. No reply. The footsteps didn't move. He was still standing there, silently staring at me through the peephole. I wanted to leave, but I remembered how my boss got angry the last time I brought a pizza back. So, reluctantly, I walked through the tall grass and around the house. Behind the cottage was a small patio with a table and 4 chairs. In one of the chairs sat a figure, their head turned away from me. I walked closer, calling out politely, but the figure didn't move, not even an inch. Then I heard it. From behind me. "Over here." I turned, and my blood ran cold. A man was leaning out from the corner of the cottage, smiling at me with wide, crazed eyes. "Come here," he said softly, "I want to show you something." That was enough. I bolted, sprinting back to my car without looking back. I sped down the dirt road until I reached the main highway, my hands shaking on the wheel. Later, when I called the police, they told me the cottage had been abandoned for years. Nobody lived there. Nobody was supposed to be inside. But I still wonder, who, or what, was sitting in that chair on the patio? When I worked pizza delivery in the Poconos, late-night shifts were the worst. Long, empty roads surrounded by endless trees, it always felt eerie. One night, it got much worse. I was driving down a foggy shortcut I had taken many times before, when suddenly, out of nowhere, a man jumped into the road. I slammed my brakes, but it was too late. The sickening bump under my tires told me I had hit him. Heart pounding, I threw my car in park and jumped out. The man was lying motionless by my front tire, dressed in a black hoodie with the hood pulled tight. My mind raced. Why the hell was he out here in the middle of nowhere? Before I could think of what to do, I heard something else. A scream. A desperate cry for help coming from the woods beside me. My stomach turned. Someone was in trouble. I looked down at the man on the ground, still motionless, then back toward the woods. Against my better judgment, I moved toward the trees, calling out, "Where are you?" The scream stopped. Silence fell over the forest. Then, from somewhere ahead of me, I heard the crunch of leaves under a footstep. I squinted through the fog and could just barely make out a shadow hiding behind a tree. Watching me. That was it. I bolted back to my car as fast as I could. But when I reached it, my stomach dropped even further. The man I had hit was gone. I jumped back inside and drove away, heart hammering the entire ride. I still had to deliver the pizza, and when I reached the customer's house, a woman opened the door. She paid quickly, but then looked past me, out toward my car. "Oh," she said casually. "They let you guys have delivery partners now?" I froze. "What do you mean?" I asked. She pointed toward my car. "The guy sitting in the back seat. Isn't he with you?" My blood ran cold. I turned slowly. Sure enough, through the window, I saw a dark figure sitting in the back seat of my car. I called the cops immediately using the woman's phone. When they arrived, the man was gone. All that was left was a blood-stained knife on the floor where he had been hiding. Even now, I can't stop thinking, what if I hadn't made that delivery? What if I had driven straight home? I'm not sure I'd be here to tell the story. These were 3 of the creepiest true pizza delivery horror stories. But remember, sometimes the scariest stories are hidden in the most ordinary jobs. Which story chilled you the most, the old woman in the house, the strange passenger, or the man with the knife? Tell me in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video if it gave you chills. Subscribe for more dark and true horror stories, because you never know when the next knock at the door might be for you.